Gentlemen, gentle ladies, fierce things, and everything in between. Welcome back to another episode of 1 to 100, and we are on number 2. Genuinely having to think about that. Keep yourself hydrated. You don't want to wilt out like I'm about to now. I guess it's kind of been a success. I've completed my first trade for this series at least, and it was through a client. There's just cards on the table right now. I'm not a great cacti lover. I don't actively go out to collect cacti. It's a prickly pear, I know that much. I've definitely already done a bit of research before starting. What I didn't realise is how many hybrids and variations and cultivated variations there are of this one plant, the prickly pear. And they're all called prickly pear. How I personally would have pronounced this plant would be Opuntia. Just for the sake of not sounding like a complete dolt on camera, I googled how to pronounce this and it comes up as Opuntia. Opuntia. I definitely have had a prickly pear before. It didn't quite look like this variant, but they're all very, very similar looking. Trying to source what this plant is called. God forbid if anybody has any idea how I would tackle that, or, you know, I'll put some close-ups of this of course, but if anybody has any idea what the actual Latin name for this is, please hit me up. But today I am just going to assume that it's a cow's tongue prickly pear, because it looks quite like the pictures of a cow's tongue prickly pear. I guess the Latin is Opuntia engelmannii. It's the most generic cacti going. And I think you can eat these for some reason. So what we are hoping is that this has some sort of root system. I haven't pulled it out of this little pot. It's relatively spineless, and I don't know if that's because they've been cut. The spine growth is really sparse as well. Really super sparse. Its growth is very pointed. It's not like how I would picture a prickly pear. Let's just assume this was once a cutting. Even pre-cutting, it was very long. It was not a round cutting, is it? We're going to get them planted up in some nicer soil. Hopefully try and stabilise them a bit. You see, you'd be worried if your bonsai was doing that in the pot. Let's go make some mess in the garden and get this planted up. I'm using scrim tape for my mesh because the hole in this plant pot is relatively large. I'm going to weigh down the scrim tape with this 10 to 20 mil pebble. Just a touch more. I don't think it could hurt. Maybe even more than that. Let's just tap that around to make sure that there's no weird pockets already. As for my main soil mix, I'm going to again be using something very similar to what I use bonsai wise, but probably with a lot more soil and a fair amount more vermiculite. I tend to get my vermiculite from the allotment shop, and there's nothing much different about it compared to the pure vermiculite. That is my that's what my soil and vermiculite mix will be. It's not much different. I have added a fair amount of soil in there, but not to completely drown out the vermiculite. I still want it very vermiculite heavy. Time to add my grit to my soil and vermiculite mix. Reese tends to do his soil mixes very proportionately, very accurately. I've got nothing wrong with that. I think it's a fantastic way, but you can see already we have different gardening methods. Already that looks fantastic to me. It needs a bit more mixing. I might do that in the pot afterwards. I've definitely mixed too much, but I will save this for, I guess, episode 3. I'm happy with that. Okay, so we've got the majority of our loam within the pot. For now, I've just filled the pot up to the first lip. which I guess most people do. And if you're interested to see what happens with the scrim tape, it's solid because I made sure it was all patted down. There's nothing shaking in it, there's not really a rattle. Just going to lay it on its side, tap it loose. Oh Christ, oh, okay. I've got to be really delicate with this because any root system I can keep is going to help push this plant into some better growth. It's going to help stabilise the plant as well. And just rake in a radial pattern. What would Nigel do? Okay, it's good news. We have some root system. We have some root system, nice base. Can you see where it has been cut and since healed? You can also see a bit of back budding. Some unsuccessful back budding here. I think it's quite good practice to put old soil, or at least a small bit of old soil, back into the plant pot you're planting up. So I've decided to actually try and get it a bit lower in the pot. So I'm sacrificing a lot of space on the top here. The roots are more likely to go across and then down, ringing around the bottom and then slowly winding their way up as plants do. I have a feeling that this is way too awkwardly big for this pot before it gets pot bound. Just tapping down to make sure there's no pockets of air. That's finally planted. Now, she's still got a wobble, but she's not wobbling at the base, she's just wobbling because she's flimsy. The final piece of the puzzle is to obviously give her some water. I'm going to start off by spraying the actual succulent first because it doesn't look like it's been cleaned for a while. It looks relatively dusty. I don't plan to give this heavy soaking, just enough soaking that it's completely watered. I'm actually warming to this plant. It looks very phallic, that's the only problem. But hey, one more miss. You're going to miss this little kitty as well. Look at him. And there we have it. Number 2. I'm not going to say its name. You can't make me. An Opuntia engelmannii. Opuntia engelmannii. This still feels like a really, really stupid and long idea for a playlist. But I'm doing it now. I'm too deep. I'm too deep. Look on the right side. The collection now, after this, will be too many to hold. So that's quite a lot, isn't it? Really, if you think about it. I've already collected quite a few succulents. How I'm naturally holding these as well. I've got to go get some water. I nearly ended this series just like that. Thank you so much for watching. We hit 20 videos collectively across the POTSCAPE board, so please do check out our previous stuff if you haven't already. Please do subscribe, please do tell your friends. Even if they don't like gardening, they might secretly like gardening and they don't tell you. And I will see you for episode 3. Somewhere out there is the 3rd succulent for my collection.